Well, it actually came about from watching RuPaul's Drag Race. I saw season one, and I was able to see this. There's a drag queen named Bibi Zahara Benet. She's really amazing. You know, I would feel like this. If I can become a drag scholar, I will go back to school. That's how much I love the history of
Mm,
drag. So Bibi
yeah.
Zahara Benet is this really wonderful African drag queen. She's from Cameroon, and she won the first season of Drag Race. And you know, in queer culture, there was not a lot of representation of people like me in queer culture. So if I craved gayness in my television and my film, I would see it in the form of RuPaul was the only black queer person. Then there was like Will and Grace, and Eric McCormick's not even gay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would see it in the form of Modern Family, and one of those guys. Only Jesse Tyler Ferguson is gay in that one. I would see it in the form of like lots of stuff, but they were never black. RuPaul was for me, and the only other black gay representation I had was Wesley Snipes in Tu Wong Fu, and again, he's not gay. You know what I
Well,
mean?
that's a different kind of drag.
Yeah, as someone who takes off the gay as soon as the camera stopped rolling, and I do think that Wesley Snipes did it with integrity, and it was really a great performance. But but I also remember that he's Demolition Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
that's
I also
true.
have that in mind. Well, that's the guy from Demolition Man. And then seeing, I was 22 and seeing what felt like myself staring back at me, this like queer black person on TV who was being praised for all the things that I was told were detriments. So someone being praised for being black, for being queer, for being feminine, for being a drag queen, all the stuff that I thought was like gonna hinder me in making it on Broadway. I moved to New York City to be a comedian and to be a Broadway actor, but no one told me that you got to be able to sing and dance to be on Broadway. But so I showed up a little late to the party. Um, but seeing this person, I was like, I'm gonna have a hard time making it in TV and film if I'm feminine like this. But then seeing Bibi Zahara do it and everyone being like, "You're not great despite being extremely queer. You're great because you're extremely queer."
This overlaps with your comedy. Comedy came first. How does the comedy interact with? I mean, because I've seen your comedy routines. You're in drag, but were you
Yeah.
always?
So I started writing my comedy out of drag. I started writing my comedy when I was working for this children's theater, and I bought a blank notepad from Old Navy of all
Hmm.
places, and I would just write my jokes in them. And I was writing for like 2 years, but I never had the courage to get on stage or even knew how to get on stage. Like I was like, how do you start doing comedy? And I'm not like I'm only 34, but that being said, it was a lot harder to Google things like that when I was 19. There was a
Who
Google
who
when I was
who are
19.
you telling?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, Google did exist when I was 19, but there was not as much information
No,
as there
there
is
was
now.
nothing to Google yet compared.
Exactly. So anyway, so I ended up figuring out like how to get on stage at a comedy club, but I actually did it my first night ever performing in drag was my first night doing stand up. So I married the two together. I was at the New York
Wow.
Comedy Club, and I did a set, and I convinced a lot, like I think like 14, which is a lot for me at the time. 14 of my fellow waiters from this restaurant I used to work at called the Jekyll and Hyde Club. I convinced like 14 of them to come watch me do stand up over on the East Side.